Right, so for the next part, um, right, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, we've got it this day and age, once over, like we used to have it so that, you could see the facets, the edges, the angles going around things. But I think this day and age, with the way that engines and hardware and everything are changing and getting more powerful and that, you're probably better off giving this maybe a few more sides. So before we go any further, what we're going to do is, so right click object mode, select on that so it'll go green like that. And you'll see once again, like I mentioned before, you've got these tabs at the top. So if you'll be going to maybe polycylinder 1, we can see. So this is where we put our dimensions in. That was right. So we've got subdivision axis. So if I change that to, I don't know, maybe 32, you can see there, it's given it, instead of having 20 sides, it's now got 32, and that looks a lot smoother. I like it like that anyway. I mean, you can do it more low poly and stuff like that, but when you bake, you're the one on top. From certain angles as you're going around it, you're still going to see it. So maybe it's better off for what we're going to do here. Give it a few more sides. If you're really limited on the amount of polys that you're allowed to use, you just go with that. But for the purposes of this, we want to make it look nice. It's the first thing you're making, so we'll make it look nice. Okay, so we've done that, and so now we've got a nice cylinder. Yep, and we're using this as just a general sort of guide in the back there, as to what we're going to do with this cylinder to make it look like a barrel or an oil drum. So the first thing that I want to do really is, and you'll see why later on, I tend to do this a lot on things, shift, right click, and we've got a tool called multi-cut. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and as you can see, it's doing all these weird and wonderful things as we're going around. Now then, if I press Control, you can see there, just move my mouse up and down, you can see there, it's going to put basically an edge loop going all the way around, So what I want to do is, though, I want to get it dead central. Now, there's an easy way of doing that, so I can have it anywhere I want. And if I keep the Control pressed and the middle mouse button, there we go. You can see there, and I press Q to come out of that. So I don't want to be in that edge loop, like in the multi-cut tool anymore, sorry. So as you can see there, we've now got a line that's dead central. Okay, I'm going to go up to display and I'm going to hit the grid thing there, get rid of the grid because we don't really need that at the moment, so it just hides the grid. Right, so you can see there I've got an edge loop going around that's right in the middle. So I know that them halves are identical now, so you'll see why later on. Okay, right, so we're going to use the same tool again. What we want to do is create this bit of a lip here. Yeah, and we also want to have a look at what we're doing with the top area. Because obviously you can see that that's like sort of sunken down. Ignore this bit here, that's sunken down. So we need to create a lip and we need to create a sunken area in here. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift and I'm going to right click and I'm going to multi-cut again. And I'm going to keep Control pressed and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Alt and middle mouse button manipulates your view like that. So, you can just like pan it around a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is keep Control pressed, and I want to create a little bit of a lip. So I don't know, doesn't want to be too big. We're just eyeballing this. So click the left mouse button. There we go. We've got a one there. Q to come out of that tool. Otherwise, we're going to be cutting everywhere as we're moving around and clicking. Okay. So now we've got an edge. Now, what we'll do with that edge is we're going to like extrude that to make it come out, like you can see on here. Yeah. So now, if I just go there and I right click and I click face and I left click to select one of them, move to the next one, keep shift pressed down. There we go. That highlights all of those. Yeah. Now then, if I press shift now and right mouse button, you can see I've got lots of different tools here. So you can extrude, which is the one we want to do. So I'm going to click on that and it brings up this little sub menu and I can then go into thickness. And you can see there, it's going to bring it out. If I go minus, it'll take it in, which we don't want. So when I take it out, it doesn't bring out too much. Let's have a look what we've got there. That's probably about right for what we need. So we've brought that out. Okay. Happy with that, press Q. And that gets rid of that tool. We're not using that tool anymore. Okay. Now, we've got a choice. We could, if we wanted, I suppose, we could just sink this bit in the middle. But I think what we're going to do is I'm going to press tab and I'm just going to left mouse button, and I'm going to go all the way around there. And what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to delete this. Now, there's a couple of reasons. I want the geometry to be more quadded rather than tries on the top. For when you're texturing things, I suppose it's just the way that I like to do it. So what I intend to do is I'm going to fill all of this top bit in. Look, we've deleted them edges there. That was a mistake. So Control and Z. I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to let you see the mistakes that I make. So if I press Control and double click on that, that will unhighlight those, deselect them. Because I do think it's a good idea. I'll delete those again. A good idea to make mistakes. I'm not going to edit them out. We're just going to go with it. Now, believe me, I'll probably make a lot of mistakes. Right. So we've got that there. So what I want to do now is I want to get that edge, double click on it, and you can see there it's highlighted all that edge going around there. Yeah. Right. So what I want to do now is I want to bring that in. Now, yeah, what we can do is if I press R, it brings up the scale tool. Now, if I keep shift pressed, you can see it appears underneath there. It says extrude. So that's another way of getting the extrude tool. Yeah, so we get the middle one and we bring it in. I'm going to bring it in about there. Yeah, and then if I press W, it changes to the move tool. Now, Alt left mouse button can rotate it around and have a look. So we can see there we've got that edge loops come in a little bit further. So I'm going to press shift, and this time I'm going to take it down. Now I can take it anywhere I want. Obviously, we don't want it that deep. Now, what I want it to do is I want basically this edge here, like this edge loop here, to be level with this one here on the outside, so that it makes sense. So they're all selected. So what I can do is, if I press V and I move this up, watch, it locked. Now V is for vertex, and what it's doing is, if I keep it pressed and I move, it'll lock onto, because I'm only moving it up, no other direction, it'll lock onto any vertex that it sees moving up. So that's what it's done. It's locked onto these vertexes that are going around this edge here. So that is the same distance down there as it is here. So that keeps it all nice and uniform. Right, now to fill this in, what we could do is, there's lots of different ways, but I want you to press Control and I want you to deselect the top two and then deselect the bottom two. Shift right mouse button, and there's a tool down here called Bridge. If I click that, you'll see it's filled it in quads, yeah, which is what we want. So I'm going to quit out of that, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go here because it hasn't quite filled it all in. So if I double click on that edge, you can see there it's highlighted those three sides. Now shift and right click, I can go down, and there's one here called Fill Hole. Select that, it's filled that hole, yeah. So if we do the same again down here, double click on that. Oops, wait. I haven't got that right. I'm not looking at the right angle. I'm being lazy, I know. Right, so if I double click on that there, you can see it's highlighted there. Now, I can do the same again. I can press shift, I can right click, I can go down to fill hole, but I'm not going to this time, because if I press G, that'll repeat the last tool. So remember that one. Pressing G will repeat the last tool. So that's basically used fill hole, but I haven't had to go through all of the menus and everything else to be able to do it. Okay, so in effect, we've got that top lip. It's starting to look a little bit like a barrel now, isn't it? So the next bit we need to look at is how we can get this to work. So once again, what I'm looking at is here. You can see that these areas here on the reference image, that goes in, it goes in a bit, then it comes out here. We're only focusing on the top bit at the minute. We're going to ignore everything on the bottom bit. So I don't know. We'll let's have a look. What do we think? So we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll try 12. We can always play around with this. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you another tool. I'm going to shift and right click, and there's a tool down here that says Insert Edge Loop Tool. So if I go along to the little box at the end, then let go, it'll open up this menu. So I'm going to try now putting 12 in there. Okay. Press return. Okay. And then I can knock that off. And wherever I click on here, it's going to put 12 edge loops in, and they all spaced out equally, which is a good start for what we want to do. So now press Q to come out of that, so it's not going to do it every time I click it. Now they're all selected, so what I'm going to do now is press R, and that'll give us my scale tool back. So if I use just the up and down one, it's not going to like mess around with anything else, just the space in between them. Yeah, so we can do that. And if I press W, we can then move these up and down. So we've got quite a bit of freedom on this. So if we're just going to eyeball this at the minute, so that will be halfway. So to me, there needs to be up about somewhere like that. So that line there, we're looking at judging from this line on the bottom of the first bit that sticks out to the middle. So that space there looks about right to me. So now we've got to work out how we're going to get these to look like what they do. Do you know what I mean? So what we can do now is, this is just trial and error. So I'm going to select right mouse button, select edge. Yep. And we can see, so there's going to be one edge there. It's the second edge in. We're going to try doing that. Okay, so if I double click on that, and I press R again, now this time I don't want to move it up, or I don't want to move it on X or like Y, whatever. I want it to be all uniform. So it just expands the whole thing. It scales the whole thing. So I'm going to use the middle part, the blue one. And if you watch there, I can bring that out. I take it in just by moving it left and right. Okay, and it's not making it go. If you look at the top, we haven't made it go like an oval shape or anything else. Okay, so this particular one, we want this one to come out, so we'll take it out. So maybe take it out about there for now. Okay, so we've got that first bit of a ridge there. Now, how do we do the next bits? Do we do, because it's going to be every other one, so double click, shift, double click, keep shift press, double click, double click. So I think maybe I don't know, we'll just give that they want to go in over. So that doesn't quite work here. We might have to put another edge loop in there. Don't know. We'll Control Z, we'll go back. I'll just click on them. So if I double click these, what I might do now is move all of these down a bit closer. Press W, can move these down a bit closer. So that loop there at the bottom is close to that one. It's going to stop this one distorting. So let's try this again. So if I just do a couple, see what that looks like. Press W. No, sorry, press R for scale. Yeah. I think we can probably get away with that, I think. Alright, so Control Z. I want to select the other ones. Yeah, and that's worked out alright. So we've still got one at the top. Okay, so it's like every other one. We want to keep one of the edges at the top. Oh, we've messed up there. Well, I've messed up there, haven't we? So I have, sorry. Right, so we'll go back, Control and Z till I get that bit. There we go. So now I know where that was. I had that selected by mistake. Right, every now and again, just go around, take a look, make sure you haven't selected something at the back and moved it because it's coming. Right, so we'll do that again then. We'll select with Shift and double click. We're going to select all of these until we get to that one, and W. We're going to move them down so that the bottom orange line there is close to the blue one. Okay, then just select in an empty space. So we want that one, then Shift double click, Shift double click, Shift double click. So hopefully now, I'll press R and scale. We can scale those ones in over. So they've got that little bit of a wavery bit going on like that. So now if we pull back, we have a look. Yeah, I think that's starting to look a little bit like a barrel. Okay. Right, so now this part now is where I was trying to explain earlier on, and it'll make a lot more sense now. Rather than doing a lot of work, we're going to look for ways as we learn to model on how we can like save time a little bit. And you know, like you look back on like the way we're doing things now in the future and like be able to do it in like a tenth, you know. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to use this because we know that's the center line because I cut it in half straight away right at the very beginning. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go into face and I'm just going to drag across all of them. I'm going to go around now to make sure I've selected them all. I'm going to delete. So we've got half a barrel. Right click, go into object mode. There we go. So we've got the object mode. Now I'm going to press E. Like I said, E rotates. So what I want to do now is I want to get it from the top. So I know I want to rotate it the right way. So I'm going to use the blue one. I'm going to press Shift and I'm going to rotate it round like that. So it ends up parallel. So that's worked a treat. Yeah. Now, in order for it to work like that, what I've done is you'll find that yours maybe won't do that. It'll look like you're going to have to try and line it up by eye and everything else. So if we go, the only time I really use these, if you go into here, you double click, you'll see on here, you've got transform constraint off, and then you've got step snap. So what that is, we can set that to 15 degrees. I've set that to 15 degrees. So what that does is, when I rotate something, so if I get the blue one, it's actually yellow now. If I get that one and move it, you can see it rotates at 15 degrees. So you know that, like, obviously 45 and 90 is a right angle. So you know you're getting 360 and all that. It's all divided into 15, so that I know that when I'm rotating, I can get it so it'll snap with another level easily. Um, if you haven't set that up, what you can do is, if your rotate is set so it rotates in 1 degrees and things like that, if you keep J pressed while you're doing the rotate, it'll rotate it in sections. But go into there and set it to 15, then you know. Okay. So excellent. So what I've got now is I've got both halves of the barrel, and basically I've only modelled the one. So that's starting to look like starting to take shape now. But we've still got a problem, because if I right click and I go into object mode, yeah, and I select, that's one object, that's two objects. We don't want that. We want that to be one object. So select one of them. I'm going to press W to make that a bit smaller. Press one of them, shift, and press the other one. Yeah, keep shift pressed, right click, and go down, and there's a button here, a tool here called combine. Right, so we'll select that. So if I come up there and I go on there, you can see it's now one object. But that isn't the end of it, put it that way. Because what we've done is we've combined them two objects. But if we right click and we go into vertex, and if I select all them vertexes there, you can see that comes to 64. But there was only 32 sides, so we know that that's double. So where the two object edges have touched and come together, yes, we've combined them as one object, but the geometry isn't right, because that should only be 32. So there's two verts for every one that you can see there, and you'll find that, like, sometimes you'll have this, and this is why I was telling you up here that it's a godsend, to be able to count your verts. There's 64 verts there. Yeah, so we know that that's wrong, because there should only be 32, because there's 32 sides. So that's what we set it. So we can't leave it like that, otherwise it's just going to cause, like, major problems further down the line. So what we need to do now is we need to shift right click, and there's a tool there called merge vertices. And if we go to that one, merge vertices, we'll see what happens. Okay, there. Instantly, that has gone to 32. So it's merged them two vertices on top of each other and, like, made them into one, which is absolutely brilliant. And this here, when it comes up, if you have a look there, it says 0.01. That's usually the standard that it comes up on. You can drag that and slide it left and right to make it higher or lower. And what that is, that's the sort of, like, the area around the vertex that it's going to look for another one to weld them together. So if you make that number bigger, then if there was a vertex up here somewhere, it would snap that to it, and it can obviously going to deform your shape and everything else. So it's best to keep it in the middle. Most of the time, you'll find that works okay by itself. Okay, so Q to quit. And if I now go onto object mode, see there, yeah, we pretty much got that going. That's looking all right now. So this is, like I say, we're modeling our low poly at the moment. So we've pretty much got the main part of the barrel in its low poly form looking okay. So if we knock off this one here, which I told you earlier on was the wireframe on shaded, and then I click there, you can have a look at it without. You can also use the buttons. It's like 3, 4, 5, 6 and things. Them buttons there will show you the different views that correspond with the ones. Okay. Like, yeah. Yeah, that's looking all right, in my opinion. It's a good start. Right, so I think we'll leave this one there, and then we'll take it a little bit further in the next one.